What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel and happy Christmas Eve everyone. I decided to wear my Christmas jumper to try and keep myself in the festive spirit in difficult times this year. Now I'm going to be a little bit serious for 1 minute and I didn't ask for it to go black and white, but we'll roll with this. Yesterday's video where I made my first midweek video, that was not my score predictions or anything else, for like the first video of one of those for like 2 months because I did university stuff. That got released and it didn't do well at all. It spent, a good 2 hours on it. And unfortunately, it just didn't strike a chord. And it really got me on the low. It shocked me, but it really got on the low. And in terms of my motivation to keep going with YouTube, it's on a knife's edge now. It really is, because I know it's affecting my mood more than I want it to. And you know what would be the best Christmas present? You liking this video, you sharing it, and anyone new around here subscribing. All of that just in itself will be enough of a Christmas present. And thank you guys so much for supporting me all this time this year. But let's get rid of the black and white screen. Let's go back to the serious stuff, which is some football in the Championship. We've got 2 postponed games, but we've got 10 exciting matches to go over. Without any further ado, let's start predicting these weekend's games. So let's actually start off with the 2 postponed games at the moment. The first one is Bournemouth and Millwall, and the reason this was postponed because there was an outbreak of COVID-19 within the Millwall first team squad. This is what the club had to say. Millwall were due to face Bournemouth away on Boxing Day before hosting Watford at the Den on December 29th. However, both matches have now been postponed until a later day. Which is interesting because Millwall, those are 2 tough games for Millwall, and unfortunately they're going to be postponed following a coronavirus outbreak. Obviously, after Boxing Day, a load of areas are going to enter Tier 4 as well, so I'll be interested to see how they're going to balance things out from there. Also, Middlesbrough and Rotherham have also been postponed. We know about Derby's game against Rotherham being postponed, but Rotherham's next game against Middlesbrough has also been postponed. This is what they have had to say. Rotherham's Sky Bet Championship fixture against Middlesbrough on Saturday the 26th of December has been suspended. The club informed the EFL that they would be unable to fulfil the fixture following recent positive COVID-19 tests and a requirement for players and staff to self-isolate as per EFL and government guidance in order to mitigate against the risk of further infection. The circumstances surrounding the postponements will now be the subject of an investigation in accordance with EFL regulations. So clearly there's going to be a huge strain with matches getting postponed left, right and centre now following this new variant going around. And it's going to be interesting to see whether the scheduling is going to have to change a little bit. We're going to have to probably see EFL do a little bit of action after Christmas, but those 2 games, unfortunately, are going to have to be postponed this weekend. And now to the first game that hopefully, fingers crossed, we can still see this weekend is Barnsley against Huddersfield, a Yorkshire derby. And I think this game will be a very, very close game, actually. Barnsley have been a side which I did mention yesterday in my table predictions. Didn't start that well, but have really recovered well and have actually gained a lot of confidence and actually played some really nice stuff under Vermelho and Ishmael, especially at home. I like the strike partnership they've got up top. I like the build-up play. I like a load of things about this Barnsley squad. Huddersfield as well have also been scoring a lot more goals. Unfortunately, I am going to edge Barnsley. And the reason why is because Josh Koroma getting injured is going to be a huge blow. Although they did beat Watford for the fact they didn't have Josh Koroma at all, but they were at home, and I think away from home, and especially with Barnsley, with the motivation of a Yorkshire derby, I think they may turn over Huddersfield in this one. I'm going to say 2-0 victory to Barnsley. Could be wrong on that, and FIFA 21 has predicted a 0-0 draw for the derby, so we'll see who's right. Next up is Blackburn going up against Sheffield Wednesday. Blackburn just been a little bit inconsistent right now. They've had 3 defeats in their last 6 games and just struggling to put some sort of form together, and that's placed them in a mid-table position at the moment. Sheffield Wednesday got their first win under Tony Pulis last game. Could this be the start of a turnaround for Sheffield Wednesday? Or is this going to be one moment of quality from Sheffield Wednesday and they'll plummet again? If anything, they need to be more competitive in games if they want to try and get out of the predicament they find themselves. They don't find themselves at the bottom of the Championship. If they can get a good amount of form in the next 3 or 4 games, Sheffield Wednesday could find themselves in a pretty safe position. With this game though, with Blackburn, with the capability, the goal scorers they have in their side, I think this will be an entertaining game, actually, and you don't tend to see entertaining games with Sheffield Wednesday, unfortunately, because they're so tough to break down. But I think we will see one of those in this game. I'm going to say a 2-1 victory to Blackburn. I think it'll be highly competitive. FIFA 21's predicted a 1-0 victory to Blackburn. Next we've got Bristol City going up against Wycombe. Both sides not in great runs of form right now. Bristol City have lost their last 3 games in a row, so they definitely need to end this losing streak as quickly as possible. And Wycombe are on a 10-match winless streak. So if any side needs to win more than anything, it's Wycombe right now. And following this, they have been cut adrift a little bit from survival. They are joint on points with Sheffield Wednesday on 12, but they have got a 4-point gap, and obviously Rotherham and Derby both have games in hand as well. So they definitely need to start picking up points and stop the rot in terms of them not being able to win games. They've only won 2 games all season, which was actually back-to-back wins, which was good at the time for Wycombe. But if they can't win again, then they're going to be stuck rooted to the bottom of the championship. Wycombe actually have a very strong record against this Bristol City side. Both sides occasionally play each other when they played in the Johnson Paint Trophy, or the Checker Trade Trophy now it's known as. And Wycombe actually have a very strong record in that competition against Bristol City. But I do think Bristol City might be able to handle this one. They've got a load of injuries, which is the only reason why I'm a bit hesitant. But I do think against this Wycombe side, I think Bristol City could manage. I'm going to edge a 1-0 victory. I don't see much going on in this game. FIFA 21 has actually predicted a 2-0 away win to Wycombe. It'll be interesting to see which one of I and FIFA are correct in this case. Next we've got Cardiff going up against Brentford. Cardiff this season have been a bit of a mixed bag, but actually in terms of their results, they've been turning a real corner. It looked to be a real dark corner, a little bit similar to what Queens Park Rangers are going through right now. But following this, they've had 4 wins in their last 6 games. So Cardiff have actually given themselves a pretty safe position and probably a fighting chance actually to get into the top 6. But they're facing the informed team of the Championship, Brentford, who have not lost in their last 13 games. 13 may be unlucky for some, but definitely not in Brentford's case. They managed to keep an unbeaten streak for that long. And they play a Cardiff side, which, yes, it could potentially end it. And I actually think this will be really close. Brentford's toughest challenge really is cracking teams down and not getting overly frustrated from it. We saw it when they tried to beat Watford. They really struggled to break down Ivic's back in the 5 system. And eventually when they did it, unfortunately, they just couldn't quite get enough opportunities and be clinical enough. They need to do the same thing against this Cardiff, because I think they will sit back and allow Brentford to play a little bit. I'm really struggling to call this one. I was thinking a draw, but actually, I think following the form that both of these sides are in, I'm going to say a 2-1 away victory to Brentford, but very narrow victory. It could just be from a penalty in the 90th minute. I could see it being that close. FIFA 21 has actually predicted a 2-2 draw between the two sides. So either way, we're both predicting an entertaining game. So hopefully this doesn't end as a stalemate or something. Next up, we've got Coventry going up against Stoke. Now, believe it or not, the last time these two sides played against each other was in the FA Cup round 3, where both of these sides were within 3 divisions of each other, which is absolutely crazy the turnaround it could be in a matter of a couple of years. Now all of a sudden they play in the same tier, in the same league of football. And Coventry, I think, maybe the more energised of the two. Obviously Stoke had to play against Tottenham Hotspur in midweek, which they did unfortunately lose out to. 3-1 it ended in the end. A stunning goal, I have to say, by Ben Davies. That was an absolutely thunder strike, but he managed to pull off there. But they did have a bit of fight about them, Stoke City. They did, at some stage of the game, did hold their own. Unfortunately, they just couldn't cope with the quality. But even so, they didn't have a full-strength squad out there. Michael O'Neill definitely thought in mind of this Coventry game and did rest some first-team players for this. But he did have to introduce some first-team players on as substitutes to try and turn the game around, which unfortunately couldn't work out for Stoke. With this game, I'm really struggling, actually. Coventry did have a good run of form, but then they did lose their last game against Sheffield Wednesday, where they did have an abundance of chances. They shouldn't have lost that game. In terms of this prediction, I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. I think this is going to be a very tight game, and FIFA 21 is actually going to agree with me. Next up is Derby versus Preston. Now, Derby have had a huge break following that they couldn't play their game against Rotherham last weekend following with the COVID. Preston, of course, recently beat Bristol City by 1-0, so they'll be riding high with confidence. However, Derby have a very strong record against this Preston side, and Preston notoriously struggled to play against this Derby side, although Preston did manage to beat Derby at Pride Park last year for the first time ever, which was a bit of a surprise at the time. But with this game, It's going to be really, really close. I can see Wayne Rooney really improving the defence. Derby have had 3 clean sheets in a row. So it's going to be very, very tough for Preston to break down this side. And from a Preston side that has struggled to score goals at times, and to a side that concede many goals, I can only see one outcome in this, and I think Derby will win. I'm going to say a 1-0 victory to Derby. I don't think there'll be many goal-mouth action, though. FIFA 21 was actually predicted a similar sort of game, but for it to end 0-0, and I hope that's not the case. Next up is Nottingham Forest going up against Birmingham. Now, this is just the tale of Vitor Karanka playing against his former clubs. He recently played against his former club Middlesbrough, where he was beaten 4-1, which would definitely leave a rough place in his mind. But now he's playing another former club in the Championship, Nottingham Forest, which I feel he did get holded out the door a little bit. And I think he'll be even more determined to get a result from there rather than Middlesbrough. And with Nottingham Forest, they definitely look a little bit better when they have a lot of their first team players out. Alex Myton managed to score his first senior goal last weekend, and I hope to see more of him because he looks such a talent. But with this game, Birmingham have got a really strong away record, although they did lose their last away game against Cardiff City by 3-2, but that was just a mad game. I mean, any side could have won that game based on the chances both these sides had. I'm actually going to edge Birmingham. Nottingham Forest have still not convinced me that they can play at a certain standard all the time. And with Birmingham's strong away record and the fact it's Vitor Karanka, where he may be extra motivated to get something, I'm going to edge him for the win. I'm going to say a 2-1 away victory to Birmingham. One thing that I have regrettably have not done in my score predictions, I've not really predicted many shocks, and this is going to be my one shock this weekend. FIFA 21 has actually predicted Nottingham Forest to win by 1-0, so I disagree with FIFA 21 and we'll see who's right. Next up is Queen's Park Rangers going up against Swansea. Queen's Park Rangers just seem to be really struggling right now with form, not winning in their last 7 games. Swansea at the moment, they're doing okay. They sometimes have rough patches, but they've naturally been able to get results. And clean sheet wise, Swansea have done very, very well. They've got the best defence in the league. However, sometimes it results with the goal scorers not being able to score any goals and for it to end 0-0. And for some weird reason, I have a feeling this game is either going to have 1 goal within it or there'll be no goals and it'll be 0-0. And actually, I can see Queen's Park Rangers really sitting back in this one. So I'm actually going to predict a 0-0 draw. I might be a little bit crazy about that. But Queen's Park Rangers have had a couple of 0-0 draws quite recently, so they definitely have been working on their defence against the top side. And Swansea have been guilty with a couple of 0-0 draws as well. I'm actually going to say 0-0, and FIFA 21 is actually going to agree with me on that. Next up is Reading going up against Luton Town. Now, Luton would not want a repeat of what happened last time they played against Reading, where Yaku Mate scored 4 goals against them. It was not a very enjoyable time for Luton Town at the time when they were trying to survive in the Championship. Reading right now have seemed to be dropping a little bit. They've really, really struggled with their form recently with 2 defeats in a row. They definitely need to pick up their form if they want to stay competitive with the top 6, especially with a lot of the sides like Middlesbrough and Watford, Brentford, Swansea, Bournemouth and Norwich all picking up points very, very frequently. Reading cannot afford to lose out if they want to stay with those 6 sides. But they do play against a Luton side that have kind of impressed me so far this season. You know, there's been a couple of games where they've looked a bit shoddy, but other times, at the back, they look really good. And they looked so good at the back against Bournemouth. If anything, with chances go, I think Luton had the better chances. In terms of this game, it's going to be really close. I might back Reading for the fact that they're at home. I'm going to say a 2-1 victory to Reading. And FIFA 21 has actually predicted a 0-0 draw again. So the final game to go over is Watford going up against Norwich. 2 recently relegated sides going up against each other. And it's the first game for Cisco Munoz in terms of the Watford manager. And what does he get? The leaders of the Championship. The Championship is just a cruel place, isn't it? They play a Norwich side full of confidence, 5 wins in a row, and because of that good run of form, they've given themselves a little bit of a gap from Bournemouth, a 5-point gap to be precise from Bournemouth. And from the top 6, they've given them a 7-point gap. So Norwich, if they can especially win this game against Watford, it could be a huge step forward in terms of leading their promotion race. But it's going to be no guarantee. Both sides have got their injury concerns. Watford could be absolutely anything in terms of Xisco Munoz. They could overperform, they could underperform. I do have the feeling that Norwich are just a results-based side. They just get results no matter what circumstance it is. It doesn't matter what ground. They got tough away wins against Blackburn and Reading quite recently. And I think they may do the same against this Watford side as well. I'm going to predict a 2-1 away victory to Norwich. FIFA 21 has predicted a 3-0 away victory to Norwich. And I tell you what, if that's the case, Xisco Munoz may only last half a game in charge as Watford manager is rate, following the cutthroat approach that the owners have in the club. So that's all my championship predictions. If you want to have a chance to get a shout out and in the Leicester Hall of Fame, comment your score predictions in the comments down below. Now, obviously in the second part of the video, it's my Premier League predictions and we've got 10 matches again to go over. Leicester, Man United. I'm going to say 2-0 Man United. Fulham and Southampton. I'm going to say 2-1 Southampton. Aston Villa and Crystal Palace. I am going to say a 1-1 draw there. Arsenal, Chelsea. I'm going to say 1-1. Sheffield United and Everton. I'm going to say 2-0 to Everton there. Manchester City, Newcastle. I'm going to say 2-0 Manchester City. Leeds and Burnley. Oh, right. I don't actually know with this one. I'm going to say 2-1 Leeds, maybe. West Ham and Brighton. I'm going to say 2-0 West Ham. Liverpool and West Brom. I'm going to say 3-1 to Liverpool. And Wolves and Tottenham. I'm going to say 1-1 again. And that is all my Premier League predictions. So obviously I predicted the Championship and the Premier League. Those are the predictions happening in the Christmas holidays. If you want to have a chance to have a shout out in the Leicester Hall of Fame, comment your predictions in the comments down below. And if I respond to it, you know, it means you'll be getting a shout out. But thank you guys, seriously, thank you guys so much for watching this video today. If you guys did enjoy it, despite the somber theme I had in the beginning, please make sure you do give this video a like. It is tremendously appreciated. Just to let you know on the Paul situation, he's recovered from his surgery now. So that's giving me a little bit of a lift in terms of the negativity going on. And if you want to share the channel, please share the channel to as many people as you can. All of that would really make my day. And if you're new around here, welcome to the channel. And please hit that subscribe button. It would really, really make my day. But thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, Merry Christmas, everyone, and take care.